cramming for exams is completely overrated. If you're anything like me throughout the whole elementary school, you used to, or I will talking in first person, I used to cram for every exam like last minute. If I had some important exam coming, I would be there procrastinating for weeks. And then, day before an exam, I would open my book, study for 1-2 hours, and then the next day, I would go for the test and I would pass it with a really cool result. This was, however, back in primary school where topics were, not gonna lie, easy. Because what were you doing on your, for example, math test? You were just multiplying or, doing some basic math. There weren't any like functions or any like calculus thing. Everything was easy. And to be honest, since I started high school 4 years ago, I was doing the same for the 4 years. I was there just studying day or two before my exams because it just worked for me. Because, maybe I have mind created for math or physics or anything. Those are my subjects, right? However, this year I got interested in basically studying hard and passing as great as I can the most important exam here in Poland, which is matura. This is something like, I don't know if I'm right, but SAT exams in Poland, those are the end of high school exams that you have to take. And based on the result, you can qualify for some like universities and stuff. And because the exam isn't based on one topic, like quadratic function or something like this, I found that it would be better for me to start studying now and slowly try to process every single of the things I have to learn for these exams, rather than just cram like a week before, because all the things they'll be asking on the test will be from like one subject, like quadratic function, for example. So at the end of my summer holidays, I looked for a book that would kind of teach me how to study math and how to study physics. Just as I said, those are the subjects that I'm most focused on. And I found a great book, which was called A Mind for Numbers by Barbara Oakley. And in this video, I want to talk about one concept which was, in my opinion, the most important and valuable concept from the entire book, which was that in learning, we have basically two modes of it. We have focused mode and we have diffused mode. Just to explain, focus mode is when you sit down to your books, when you, for example, read your book. If you just sit and do your exercises from math, when you do some past papers or some mock exams, this is focus mode. When you're actually there, sitting and just doing a work like studying or, just as I said, doing some exercises. And diffuse mode, what is diffuse mode? It is when you're after a hard and like fatiguing session of learning and you're basically doing nothing, and preferably doing something that promotes diffuse learning. We'll talk about this in this video also. This is when your brain kind of facilitates all the information it had learned during the session. There is a cool analogy, if you're into computers you will understand it, that when you're focusing, when you are learning like deliberately, you are saving all the information on your RAM memory, which is like temporary memory. And then as you go into your diffuse mode, all of those memories you have in your like RAM memory are being facilitated, moved to your hard drive, to your HDD or SSD if your brain's better. And basically, once I understood this concept, I realized that actually the thing that everyone is talking on the internet, that you should study consistently rather than cram, actually makes sense. This is something you should do. So as I thought more and more about the idea, I realized that this is basically how learning works. As you think of pianists, like people who play piano, they often say that they are learning very hard piece, like so Chopin or like Beethoven stuff. and it's really hard. And they are practicing for like 6 hours or 7 hours, and they cannot get a part right. And they say that then, for example, they went for a walk or they went to sleep. And the next day, after they woke up, they sat to the piano, they played like everything, and once the hard part came, it seemed easy now. Or maybe not easy, but they were able to play it seamlessly without some problems they had had the night before. This basically means that they were practicing very hard, but they couldn't get a thing right. But then their brain moved into the diffused mode once they got to sleep. It processed the information. It kind of, segregated the bricks of knowledge. And once they woke up, they had this like fresh memory saved on their SSD drive. And they were able to sit in front of the piano and play the piece seamlessly. Even though the night before, it was the hardest thing ever. They couldn't do it at all. The same goes for doing a driver's license. I remember I was doing my course a couple of months ago, and in Poland we learn how to drive on manual, like transmission. And just as probably you know, it's kind of hard when you're starting to first drive a car. And I remember I was stalling a lot. Like my car would stall, on the every intersection or traffic lights. And I wasn't able to kind of teach myself how to release the clutch so slowly that the car will, move out smoothly. I couldn't deliberately teach myself how to do it. But because the practice was 30 hours long, and I was sleeping like, and doing all of those stuff between the sessions, because it stretched like throughout the 2-month period. Between every session, I was getting better and better, and in halfway of my course, I wasn't thinking about like moving off smoothly at all, because I was doing it like unconsciously. I was just releasing my clutch with a gas, and I was just moving off without thinking of it. But I wasn't able to do it in one sitting. I was practicing for 2 hours, and for 2 hours my car was stalling. And then I just kind of got it, just because my brain in diffuse mode processed it and facilitated the knowledge on my SSD drive. And I was there able to move off slowly, to move off smoothly. And what's even more interesting, I'm seeing this now as I started learning consistently. I started it on September 9th, and since then I've been very consistent. I've been studying for, I believe, 1.6 hours average a day, every single day. 1 hour compulsory, and the second hour of studying is just I feel like studying and I have some time. But I remember doing some physics exercises, and they were really hard, to be honest. I was there just, looking at a blank page thinking, what possible equation I can use, or a law that will allow me to do this exercise. And I, didn't have an idea. My timer ended, for example, I went for exercising, I started exercise, or even the next day after, restful night's sleep. I was there doing the same exercise from scratch, and suddenly my brain, my mind was able to do it. I just had a solution in my brain. I wasn't there, just brainstorming what to do again. I was just doing the exercise, and I suddenly knew what to do. My brain knew. And this is very fascinating because, I felt it on my example that this whole study consistently thing is basically a thing. It works. When it comes to small exams, like small exams I have here in Poland, for example, they are, based on like one subject, that it's like only doing some really simple thing. It's one subject, I'm still studying for this for like the day before or 2 days before. I'm studying for 2 days just as I have, just that I have this one night in which I can process the whole knowledge. But it works because it's easy. But when it comes to most important exams, like like just as I said, my high school exams, which are very important and very hard. When it comes to some, semester exams, I know whatever you have, the method of studying consistently for a shorter period of times, for example, even, half an hour daily, but daily, it makes a difference. Finally, the thing I always say about consistency also applies here. 30 minutes a day of studying won't feel that long, like 7 hours in one day. What I mean by that is, by studying 30 minutes a day for a week, you score 3.5 hours at the end of the week. And imagine trying to push 3.5 hours of studying in one day without any breaks or even with breaks. It would feel long and it would feel hard, rather than just, sitting and doing 2 or 3 exercises from maths, just my example, in those 30 minutes, but doing it every day for a week. The good thing is that by doing the first thing, which is studying every day for 30 minutes, you will allow your brain to process the information, when in comparison to studying 3.5 hours only one day before exam or anything, you won't let your brain to process the information and facilitate the knowledge, so the whole concept becomes easier for you to understand. One more important thing is, what are those diffuse mode activities you can do? And the answer is very pleasing, because those are all things or healthy things that you do in order to just relax, let's say. Diffuse mode activates when you're meditating, when you're sleeping, when you're exercising. Sleep and exercise are the most potent here. But basically by just reading a book, for fun, it also activates your diffuse mode. It means that you finish your study session, you go there, open your book, and you read it. And even though you're reading, so you can technically say you're learning still, because you're reading some book. At the same time, your brain is processing things you learned on your study session. You can go for a walk. It will also put you in diffuse mode. You can, do some cooking, or, go somewhere by car. Or for example, go to take a shower. Those are all things that activate diffuse mode. The key here, what I want to say in this video, is that shorter sessions, but stretched across some period of time, are far more beneficial for your learning, for your studying, rather than just cramming one day before exam, or one day, or basically, anything. So if you want to implement things from this video you learned, you just have to study consistently, learn consistently, rather than just trying to push a hardcore couple hours session of studying, of piano practice or anything in one day. You would benefit broadly from just spreading those couple hours throughout the whole week. It will make you better in learning and basically any topic you're interested in. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you being that far. Consider subscribing to this channel if you found some value. New videos are for sure coming. Leave a comment, we'll connect. Let me know what you think. See you in the next video.